Hello and welcome to Badass Moms, brought to you by the Holistic Therapies Directory. I'm Nicole Cruz, super busy mommy coach, and today I am so excited to be joined by Dalma Vazquez of Dalma Wellness. Dalma is a functional nutrition and lifestyle coach specializing in helping women heal their mental and physical bodies through nutrition and lifestyle habits. Dalma, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I was really excited when you invited me. I'm eager to get in and dive deep with you today.
Oh, I can't wait to dive deep. I had to invite you. I mean, seeing your appearances on Khalid's show, seeing you, I've just everything you've put up on social media, you just do these soliloquies that end up being, so beautiful and deep. I mean, I saw that today you ended up talking about like a rough time you were having and how it's okay to have those rough times. And I have it flagged because I didn't actually get to watch the whole thing, but tell us what happened. You were breaking down last night over about something.
Yeah, actually it was Monday. Yeah, today's Wednesday, yeah, Monday. Yeah.
Mom life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's kind of like a series of events and things kind of compound, and I live in Northwest Illinois, and the weather here is really gray. I can't even remember the last time the sun came out. And it really affects my mood. So that already alone sets the tone for the day. And then, I had a difficult conversation with my son, and then I had a difficult conversation with my friend. And then I had a job lead that kind of fell through. And then I got a report from, this inspection that I had from my house. And it was just like a trickle down effect. And even though I know that everything always works out for good, I know that things always turn out well at the end, even if I have to go through struggle and pain. Sometimes, just life gets the best of me, and as a single mom,
Mhm.
um, it sometimes does get to be a lot, you have to be strong not only for yourself but for your kids. Then if you have a business, you have to show up every day. People rely on you for things. And then, I hold myself to a very high standard. I I practice what I preach. I practice what I tell people to do. I eat well. I have my own goals. I have all these things. But sometimes it just becomes a lot. And so that day was just like, you know what, I'm tired, and I was emotional, and by the end of the day, I had a whole, like, a meltdown, and I just cried it out in the shower. um and back in the day when I really struggled with a lot of depression, like serious depression, those moments would become days, right? And so through the work that I've done in nutrition and God's transformation and the lifestyle habits that I've changed and all the things that I've done to implement on a daily basis, um, allow me to have those moments, but have them have them not become days on end. So I think I think especially as single moms, we, at least for me, before I thought, well, I can't have those moments. There's no time for those moments. And if I have that moment, that means that I'm weak. That means that I'm a failure. That means that I'm not doing my best. That means that I can't keep going. Or that means that something's wrong with me. And I've learned that it is okay to embrace those moments. As much as we want to believe we are super women, which in actuality we are in many ways, there are moments that, we're going to crack, and it's okay. It's okay to fall on your face. It's okay to fail. Um if you don't fail, that means you're probably not trying hard enough sometimes. You know what I mean? Because life just keeps going, and there's just so much that you can take on. And so um I've learned that also, um it's it's not good for our kids to see that we are perfect, like, because it doesn't allow them the opportunity to fail. Because if they think, okay, well, this is unachievable, like, I have to be this perfect person, I have to always have my emotions in check, I have to always act perfectly and pretend that I'm okay for other people's benefit. I mean, yeah, to a certain degree, you don't want to be a complete jerk or whatever, but if you don't show that sometimes life is hard and it's okay to grieve, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to embrace the hard news, the hard, situation, the whatever, the breakup, the injury, the whatever.
Mhm.
But it's in how you deal with it that makes a difference. Now, if I had a meltdown and then went and ate a whole chocolate cake, or went and I downed a whole, six pack of beer, or, I went out and I got myself some dude to satisfy my need, and that's what I'm presenting to my kids, then they're not learning anything good. So either way, you either pretend that you got it all together, or you, in the hard, you show them the wrong way to cope.
Mhm.
So that's, part of my growing up in some of the hard things that I've gone through, because I also am very empathetic. So I take on a lot more than a lot of people. I feel very deeply. And so that also contributes to certain emotions that I have. And so I have learned that it's okay, that it you don't always have to escape the hard, you don't always have to get distracted, you don't always have to pretend or put a mask on, but let yourself just feel the emotion, check in with myself. Okay, what is it that I need most right now? And right now, that moment after the shower, I just needed to go to sleep. It was like 7:30. I just needed to go to sleep. Where before, back in the day, many, many years ago, I get a Ben and Jerry's, and just escape watching a movie and eat the whole thing, and then feel guilty the next day. Um, or I would take it out on one of my kids, right? Because they're the easiest target. Um, and that's not okay either. Um, so when you check in really and say, okay, what do I really need? Yeah, and it's not the sugar, it's not the cake, it's not the alcohol, it's not the wine, Um, sometimes I check in and I'm like, I need to call somebody. Sometimes I check in and I need to pray. Sometimes I check in and I say, I need to journal. Sometimes I check in and okay, I need to rest. And so that's what I did. I went to sleep early, and the next day was a new day. Got up and just went about my business. So, those are the things that I have learned. And sometimes I wonder, like, okay, am I doing damage by having my children see? And it's not like I broke down in front of the girls or anything like that, but they could hear me crying. They could hear me. Um, and they've seen me at my worst, but they've also seen me get up every time I fall on my face. They see me get up. For the 50 times that I fall, they've seen me get up the 51st time, and that shows them resilience. That shows them perseverance. Um, and so instead of thinking, man, I'm going to fail them by showing them that I'm having a hard time, I've learned that, it's also a life lesson for them to see that life is not always going to be easy. In fact, it isn't. And if you are trying to swim upstream and do your very best and not go with the norm and what people are doing and whatever, and you're trying to do your best, it is going to be hard, and it is lonely at times, so that was my point about posting that too, because I think the social media always paints the picture that everything is good, like everybody has it put together, and that it's easy for her because either, that lady she could do it because she's good looking, or she could do it because she's always happy, or she could do it because she's got great kids, or because that's the facade that is put up on social media. And I never want anyone that's following me to think that that I don't have bad days too. But the difference is that I choose what I do with them. My choice is different than what other people might do, and that was the whole point about being vulnerable and posting that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you spew diamonds. It's so many things in there to just emphasize. And what you said about, it's okay to break down, it doesn't make you weak, like facing your emotions head on. The people who have followed me a lot know it as be a warrior, but that's just, I mean, that's timeless wisdom, right? Like you find that advice across cultures and across time, that escaping as a coping mechanism doesn't actually help. In the moment it feels better, but in the long
Hmm.
term you're doing damage. And
Hmm.
like if you face it head on, and the analogy, I don't even know where this originated, but the ocean wave washing over you and then receding, it's like yes, yes. And then what you said about breakdowns, I mean, that just hit me, because it's like when you have a young kid, that it's like I put memes up every once in a while, and even on my website there's a page where it's like, how do you fit in workouts when you don't even have time for a breakdown? It's like that pressure to, no matter how you feel, you're just, when you're in those situations. And especially for me, it was when I was transitioning to being a single mom. My son was only one, and it's like you're on all day, and
Hmm.
like it's healthy to let yourself break down sometimes. And
Hmm.
when I was at that point, I was transitioning to be a single mom, and I lost my brother at the same time. And there's a whole bunch of logistical stuff with, like, the family business doesn't do so well when the founders get divorced and all of that. It's like um I found myself just where I knew I needed to break down, and I had to go the entire day just delaying that breakdown until I was in bed. And
Hmm.
just like you mentioned, that pressure, when you're a single mom, of just being on all the time. And not only seeing, like, so many parents, military spouses with people deployed, or shift workers spouses, and
Hmm.
first responder, like so many people are in that situation. It's just like you have to be on, and the pressure of not even being able to break down, like
Right.
that just really, when you said that, that resonated with me so much. But then the way you brought it around to, it's making that space for yourself as soon as you can. For you it was in the shower,
Hmm.
for me it was in bed.
Hmm.
And then for your kids, like acting like you don't feel that way, they can't relate to that. And so what you
Hmm.
said about modeling for them and being transparent about how to react to those emotional experiences, how to deal with that, what to do when that happens, that's where the lesson and the value comes in,
Right.
and the true parenting. And I mean,
Hmm.
so like everything you said is just like
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is because anybody could be a good parent when things are great.
Mm,
Anybody could be a great parent when you're feeling great, and when your kids are well behaved. But the true test is when you're not, like, completely okay, or when your kid's acting up. That's when you can show what a good parent is.
Mhm.
what good parenting is, taking the time. Um, love is inefficient, meaning it takes time to love your kids well. It takes time to love yourself well, right? Fear is very efficient.
Mm.
You better sit down. I'm gonna spank you. That is efficient, right? You get people to do something, or the distraction is efficient. Like you down that wine bottle, or you eat that, sugar, whatever. That's efficient. That's in the moment. But
Mhm.
nothing good, like you said, nothing good comes out. But when you're actually taking the time to love yourself well, that takes time, that takes effort. It's not efficient, but it's really when you grow personally, and you show up well for your kids, and teach them valuable life lessons that they can't get anywhere else but at home.
Yeah, and showing them how to behave and what to do when you're feeling weak, when you're at your wit's end,
Hmm.
when you're about to break, like they can relate to that. They can't
Hmm.
relate to the picture perfect parent, you know?
Right, right,
Yeah.
yes. Um,
No.
so yeah. So it is, I think, a valuable thing to just show people that um, the real side of you. And I never really had the pretend gene. That's like I don't have the phony gene, so that doesn't that's not a hard thing. Like my youngest, um I always tell her, you are not responsible for my happiness. I have to tell her all the time. She always wants it, and like I can walk in and she's like, "What's the matter?" I'm like, "I just walked in. I didn't even say anything." But she's
Aw.
so in tune with me, right? But that comes because you create bonds with your children when you're transparent, when you're authentic, when you tell them, you know what, I struggle too. I understand where you're going through. I know that hurts you. You know, um, and I at least for me that has really created a relationship with my teenage daughters that a lot of parents don't have. Not because I think I'm a greater parent, but because I have had, um I guess, just so many life lessons that I have been willing to share with them, and just be able to expose myself in ways that are is relevant and age appropriate, obviously,
Mhm.
but that is relatable to them. When you meet them and you meet them in their world, and you can connect with them on their level, and not like pretend that you're above them or better than them, um, because I was a teenager too, and probably worse than them, to be honest. Um, so that creates that connection that is valuable, and we're on borrowed time with our kids. We
Mhm.
only have a very short window, and you can either have them be exposed, or like have other people's wisdom be brought into them, or you can have the blessing or take advantage of you being the one to speak life and wisdom into them. And that takes a lot of investment, and connecting with them on their level, because they won't want to invite you in if
Mhm.
they can't relate to you. They'll
Yeah.
go about their business. And I know that full well. A lot of my friends who have kids too, they can't connect with them, and every answer is like, "Oh, how was your day? Fine. What did you do? I don't know." you know
Mhm.
um because the kid doesn't want to connect with you. They don't know who you are. They don't relate to you, even though they're your parent. You're their parent. So
They feel like you're gonna
um
judge them if they're honest.
right, exactly.
Mhm.
So, the flip side is that my kids, I have heard really things that I don't want to necessarily want to
Oh,
hear,
no.
right? Like you're like, and they're communicating, and you're inside like freaking out, like I don't know what I don't want to hear this, like what is happening, and they're just freaking out, and you're like, oh, okay,
Thank you for sharing.
yeah, so you either, it's a balance. I guess, you take one or the other. I would have what I have, but
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a journey. I'm on a journey, still they're on a journey. So I never want to make them think that I've arrived or that I figured everything out. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds beautiful. I hope that my relationship with my son is like that when he's a teenager.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and again, it takes a lot of effort, and I see that spend a lot of time with him, and you listen to him, and those videos that when he was on the beach and just like talking, you let him lead, just those are the moments that they start to feel safe, and that you see them as an individual, then they will continue to bloom and want to continue to just be who they are, and it's a beautiful thing, and then you can like mold and help and direct and redirect, and as he grows, I mean, I see that you're heading in that direction. It's awesome. It's awesome to see that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's we all try our best as parents, and there's always the ups and downs, you know. I had a really rough one. I'm not a crier, and my eyes welled up. The other day, it was like, sometimes as a parent, when like you've tried every positive way you could possibly think of, and it's something important where you can't just like let it go, you have to
Hmm.
solve it. And so you're like, I don't know what else to do. So I'm going to revert to yelling or, being
Yeah.
harsh or because it's important enough that it needs to get done and I can't figure out
Mhm,
another way. And
mhm,
I had one of those moments where I wasn't like yelling necessarily, but I was like, stern mommy voice being harsh.
mhm,
And because he was just not getting his work done. He would just like, Eric, do you work? And like, I have to get my work done. And so it's like, Eric, do this. And then he like gets up, Eric, do this. He gets up, Eric, do this. And it was just like that the whole day. And then he at one point goes to me, he's like, Mommy, do you want another kid? And I was like, wait, you mean like a brother or sister? Like, he's like, no, Mom, do you want a different kid? Like, you want to send me back? And I'm like, no, no, I do
yes,
not, and like I just got so emotional because I was like, oh my God, like I did something to make my child think that I would rather exchange him for another kid. I'm like, oh wow, like that hit me,
mhm, yes, and I could relate to that. So my son, who's 24 now, had a very similar response to me, probably around that same age, and he, um, same situation, just get frustrated, and they're not listening, and all that, and he said to me, well, then just sound me like a rabbit. So he
Oh,
had seen a movie, Lilo and Stitch, where it was like she was selling a rabbit. I don't even know what the scene was, but he was just like, then just give me like give me away then, like it made him feel like I didn't want him around. Like he was such a nuisance to me at that point that he was just like, okay, then get rid of me, kind of thing. And but the good thing about that is then that gives you, if you take the time to love, right? That gives you an opportunity to show them repentance and ask for forgiveness. And then, say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have talked to you that way. It was not loving, it was not kind. And what can I do better? Will you forgive me?" That shows them what true forgiveness, how to model, asking for forgiveness, and I am all for asking my kids forgiveness if I have messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think God doesn't give us kids to make us happy. I think He gives us kids to make us holy, right? Because it gives you a mirror of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nobody that shows you your ugly side more than your kids.
Yes. Oh,
Nobody. That mirror up in your face is ugly sometimes.
oh my
And
God.
you have to humble yourself, and you have to just like go back and say, I'm sorry. It, and yeah, I
Mhm.
could totally relate to that story for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But it's like, because like you said, the social media stuff, right? Like, I don't post I didn't take a video of that.
Right.
I took a
Right.
video of us on the beach, but
Mhm,
there's always,
mhm,
you put in all the efforts and all of that I post on social media and that you post on social media, it's all real, right?
mhm.
But a lot of times the other stuff doesn't get there. But like you're
Right.
right, it's important for people to know it's there. We all
Mhm,
go through those things, and it's how you deal with them. Like the conversation we had after that, I think helped us understand each other better. I
mhm,
got to understand that when he's in that place, it's not because he doesn't care, which is how I was interpreting it. Like he's not
mhm,
taking me seriously. He doesn't see how important this is. He doesn't
mhm,
care. That's what I thought it was. And it turned out that he was being harsher with himself than
mhm,
I would ever be with him.
mhm,
And so it was illuminating, and he got to understand that you know that I want him to learn how to work hard because I think it's best for him. I think he got
mhm,
that message. It sounded like he
mhm.
got that message. You never really know. But so it's like I'm like, no, I'm never gonna want like he's like,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, he's the greatest kid in the entire history of the
Mhm.
world. And every
Right,
parent
right,
should feel that way, like,
right.
but that's how I feel. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's and the mirror thing that resonated so much, because how many times do you see your kid and you're like, where did they get that habit? And you're like, it was me, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
didn't notice I did it until right now. Didn't
Mhm,
notice
mhm.
that I had that quirk until I saw him do it over and over.
Yeah, yeah, yes. But
Mm,
again, I always see the opportunities, right? So even though it was hard for you to go through that, and I'm sure for your little boy, but it gave you an opportunity to grow in communication. And just like you said, um, you learned about him and he learned about you. Without that situation, you probably wouldn't be able to reenact or have that conversation, right?
mhm,
And so that's another thing that I've learned as a mom is that, sometimes we're really hard on ourselves and we can beat ourselves up for those moments when we don't show up well. But when without those nasty moments, unfortunately, then we don't have the opportunity to have those really valuable conversations and learning lessons, not only for you as a mom, but also for him. So
yeah. He needs to ask me something.
sure, go
What
for
do
it.
you need to ask me, buddy? Yes, you can comment. Yes, you can comment. Okay. Yes, that's okay. Watch the wires, buddy, because sometimes they shake and then it makes all of this other stuff shake. Okay. This is what I love about my business. Look, there he is right there, a few
Yeah,
feet away from
it's
me.
real life. It's real
Yeah.
life. Yes.
And I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, and you
Um,
don't have a nanny, taking your kids. You're doing the work. So
oh
that's
yeah,
also good
definitely
to
like
show.
nothing against that by all means if that's the right
Right.
decision for your family. But like where I'm not the only single mom who can't get a nanny. Like
Right,
for a
right,
lot of us that's just the reality. And
right.
especially even when you're let's say you're working a job where most of the other people you're working with aren't single moms, and
Mhm.
they do have those nannies and they assume that everyone has the nanny and you're
Right.
the one where it's
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
trying to juggle it. It
Mhm.
happens. But I wouldn't want it any other way. I love having him
Mhm.
here all day.
Mhm.
So I know your journey to becoming the practitioner that you are today took many turns. And, we spoke last time about it starting like your fitness. I hate using the word fitness journey because I feel like everyone who DMs me to join their MLM uses that phrase.
Yeah.
But they're like, I'm on a fitness journey too. And I'm like, I'm not interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, like, and I've done MLMs. I know how hard they are. I know it
Mhm.
takes a lot of work. Respect for people who make it work, but like I did not enjoy it at all.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
um but I know it started for you. You were a teenager and at the time it was like what was fashionable, what was considered beautiful was for women to have the bodies of like 13-year-olds and
Mhm.
and so you started you got into fitness to try to look different than your body type would allow and then it evolved. So can you
Mhm.
let's tell everyone about that because it's so relatable to me and
Mhm.
I know that so many people are going to be like, "Oh my god, that's what it was like for me too."
Yeah. So I grew up in Miami, Florida, where it's still to this day very much what you look like, what you have, the status, those kind of things. And so, I had the bigger butt and the thick thighs, and I felt that I was fat. I did not look like my friends looked, and um, Hispanic parents, at least my mom, for sure, would comment a lot about my weight, and my brothers would tease me about the size of my butt, and so that wreaks havoc on a teenage girl, a young teenage girl, and it did for me. So, um, the only thing that I could think of was to starve myself and exercise a whole lot, as much as I could every single day. And I would watch the little workout shows on TV. There was like four in a row, so about 2 hours, and then I would go into the garage in my Miami weather. There's no when there's no air conditioning, and I would do another like hour or two of a cardio, just relentless, basically just a fit, like exercise anorexia, so just as much as you can as every day, because I wanted to look a certain way and I was fighting against my genetics. And so through that, I mean, I enjoyed the feeling of being in control in that way, because that was really the only thing that I could control at the time. I was a teenage girl, 12, 13 years old. I couldn't control, you know, what I ate per se, as far as like, what was in the house. Like I couldn't control um my brothers and what they did or did not do, how they teased me. I couldn't control how my mom treated me or what she could say. I couldn't control whether, they would allow me to go somewhere, be with my friends or whatever. That was all outside of my control. But what I could control was what I put in my mouth and what I did with my body. And so that became um, exciting to me. And so then I started connecting that feeling with with extreme exercise. And as I became an athlete in high school, just pushing my body to the brink of exhaustion, to the point where, if after every practice, if I wasn't ready to throw up, I felt that I hadn't done my part, that I had not done enough that day.
Mhm.
And sometimes I would go and I would, play basketball at open gym at night time with the guys. Because that was extra credit, a calorie burn, those kind of things. So it just created this whole warped way of seeing fitness, as a way to control and my control have a way of controlling my circumstances and make me look a certain way, which to a certain degree I really did not ex- like achieve that look, because again it was against my genetic. Like um even in 6th grade I weighed 146 pounds, which I went to the doctor, and it was really because I had a lot of muscle mass, and so I weighed more. But when I heard that number and the doctor, so well, you're at whatever 90th percentile or some crazy, because of the back then, there wasn't the BMI, but there was those growth charts that are still, I think, not individualized and really relevant for everyone.
Mhm.
Um, and then, my mom commenting or whatever. And then I would go shopping and I wanted to wear a certain thing that wouldn't fit my body because my waist was too small, but my hips were too big. So then I would have to get bigger sizes to fit, and that wreaked havoc on my self-esteem as well. I hated shopping because of that. Um, so, the whole point of exercising really wasn't really for health benefits. It was really just to um, try to fit into a box that I was not meant to fit into. And then when I became a single mom for the first time, I got married I got pregnant at 18, and then my mom made me get married, and by the end of age 20, I mean that marriage was not gonna survive. But so I became a single mom at age 20, but at age 18, um, after Josh was born, he was 18, and then I quickly turned 19. I became a certified fitness instructor, aerobics instructor. Back in the day, group exercise, I forgot what it's called. Um, but I started teaching group exercise, and that was exciting to me, because then people wanted to come to my class, and I felt valuable, and I felt like, again, I could control that situation. And I would teach a class, and then I would do another 2-hour workout on my own. It was just extreme. And so but the the again, the good part, I always want to say the good part, what is that that like mental toughness that it takes to be that extreme, even though it was for a negative reason, I'm able to use it now for good. So, like, I can use my powers for good, not for evil now, right? And so I could use that mental toughness and that mental focus for something that I could use to not only really benefit me and my mental health and wellness, um, and say no to the things that I know are not good for me now. And then I'm able to then use it to my advantage for to serve others, right, and teach them how to also focus in on what is really important and say no to the things that are not good. And I always say no is a complete sentence. um y- and I've also learned that you don't have to, like, um prove yourself to anybody. You don't have to defend yourself to anybody. You don't have to please other people. Um, if you know that you're doing what you need to do for your benefit, and then be effective in the role that you are called to on earth. So if you're a mom, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're a sister, you're a friend, whatever role that you play, vocationally or personally, if you're not well, then you can't show up well for those people. So that whole fitness journey, like you said, although it came from a dark place, it has served me well as far as always knowing that my body now versus then is is now an asset versus a liability, right?
Love that.
And so now I still work out intensely, um but not to my detriment, right? So there are, then like I said, I could focus that energy to certain things so that I could see things through completion, the inconsistency. So I set certain fitness goals or physical goals, because I've been working out for so long. I need to do that or else I get bored, right? And so, um, but I do it in other challenging ways. So like I think for right now, the most challenging thing that I do is yin yoga, which is where you hold a pose for like 3 to 5 minutes, and it's very stress relieving and things like that. Um, but that is most challenging because it challenges my mental focus. Right. I have no problem grinding it out. I have no problem lifting and pushing weights around. I have no problem kicking and punching and all that, all the extreme things.
Mm-hmm.
But the big challenge now is mentally focus and slow down, because I've been a single mom. This is my third time being a single mom. So I've been married 3 times. So, and I've been, I've learned things along the way. And but either way, I've been a single mom the whole time, whether I was married or not, because there were some times that I was married, but the guy was not the parent, that kind of thing. So still a lot of things that I did as even though I was married. But all that to say is that I've been so go 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 for so long that now what's most challenging for me is to slow down. And that takes a lot of self-awareness, right? Because that's a totally different level of challenge where
Mm-hmm.
people were like, oh, well, that doesn't do anything for you now. Like, how is that going to make you thinner or whatever or whatever? but um but it is a new challenge, um and part of that whole mental toughness that I've been able to kind of it's a transferable skill that I can put into a new way of moving my body, and I find that exciting.
I think he wants attention. Yes, buddy. No, no, I can't. I'm in a meeting right now. Okay. We'll talk about that after, okay? Remind me to talk about that after the meeting. He's telling me the trains he wants us to take.
Oh.
Any of you who don't follow my Instagram, you don't have to follow it for very long to know how obsessed my son is with trains. And he knows them inside and out. But
That's good.
yeah. But no, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And mental toughness sometimes means taking a break, like
Hmm.
for the very brief time that I got to dip my toe in the world of training fighters, it's like I just remember having to be like, discipline means that you do what's effective and not what makes you feel like a badass. So you're going to rest now. Sit down.
Uh-huh.
Resting does not include push-ups. Sit down,
Right. Yeah, and that is sometimes I mean, I don't know how to rest. I don't. And I actually have to purposely schedule it.
Wow.
It seems absurd, right? It seems absurd, but like I don't have time. I mean, I guess I could make the time, right? I can rearrange or not do certain things that I know I like to do or are for my benefit. And sit and watch TV or whatever. And I do goof around with the girls and spend time like that. But as far as like, sitting and watching binge watching Netflix show, like what? Who? What? Like,
I don't get to do it very often, but I love binge watching.
yeah,
It's like I just
I
get
don't.
sucked into this alternate reality. It's totally a vice of mine.
And I admire that because I don't know how to do that. Like time watching, even like I will watch maybe one movie a week, which is, I don't watch TV. I don't, but even like 30 minutes in, I'm like, I need to get up." I
No,
mean,
I
I
can
have a
totally
stand-up
see that.
desk because I cannot sit down. Like, it's just, um, so yeah, just like you said, sometimes the mental toughness is like, okay, no, you're gonna need to stop. You're gonna need to rest. It's
Mhm.
important to go to sleep, so I am also very diligent about my sleep. I don't stay up late because I know that once I get up, I'm go go go. And and even when I try to take a nap on the weekends when I don't have the girls, it's really hard to slow down my brain. But, again, just 20 minutes of just being still is valuable for me because I don't do that. Um, and Yeah, so again, it's a different type of mental training.
Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
I was just like thinking about there's a practice like it's a mindfulness spiritual practice called Vipassana. It's a form of meditation, and like one of the things they make you do is literally sit still. You cannot like cross leg, like you have to choose your position, cross-legged or kneeling or whatever, but then you cannot extend your arms or legs or open your eyes for a solid hour. And like you do that 3 times a day. And it is
Wow.
so challenging because it hurts.
Wow.
And I'm just like when you were saying they're like, sometimes just doing nothing and being still. I'm like, yep, got it.
Yeah,
Very familiar. That's one that I've been practicing lately. So I was like, yep, yes, I can relate actually.
yeah, yes.
Yeah. But
And that's the thing. I mean, like when our kids were little, or I don't know if you still do it with your boy, but you know, you would try to make them, take a nap or, have some quiet time or, have, some time to be still. Like, but I think as moms, we obviously we don't have the luxury of having a lot of time just to be still. But because we've been conditioned, at least I know I've been conditioned to just keep going. It's hard not, like I have to now like train myself, or like I said, schedule time just to be still, on purpose. And even though, so it's not spontaneous though, like I have to also schedule it, like
yeah,
so
right.
it's still kind of work, to be honest, but but it's more passive work um than just doing.
I feel you. I really feel you.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like those
let's call
things
it
that
for
you
what
have
it
to
is.
schedule as life gets busy, like the couples that
Right.
have to schedule their like, happy time together. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like life just can get, yeah, but you can also make it wonderful. So
Right.
you during your journey, right? So you had all this fitness, you became like a superstar in pretty much everything, and then the universe slapped you across the face with another obstacle. And I think this one is where a lot of your wisdom comes from in the what you know about nutrition, because it completely changed your perspective on that from our last conversation that you had. And so
Mhm.
let's share that one.
Yeah, so um when I had, bye babe, love you. um when I had my second child, so my son is 9 years older than my second child. She's my first daughter. um i had I had started experiencing a lot of like fatigue and what, and so a lot of symptoms. My hair started I started losing my beauty, right? Like that's what I felt like. My hair started to get really really thin and started losing my hair. I started, like, no matter how much exercise I did, I could not lose the weight that I had gained from my pregnancy. um my eyes, just became like swollen. My tongue swell. And I just started to like not recognize myself at all. And when she was about 5 months old, I finally actually talking to my husband at the time said he didn't think there was anything wrong. I kept asking like, do I look different? Like, do I sound weird? And he was like, no, you're just tired, you just had a baby, like it's
Mhm.
fine. And I was actually talking to my first husband, which was the father of my son, and over the phone. And he's like, "Are you okay? You sound weird," And I was like, yeah, I feel like I sound weird." And he's like, "Maybe you should get checked." So because of him, I went to actually get checked. And sure enough, I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition. So what happens is your body starts to attack the thyroid. It creates these antibodies and it attacks the thyroid. And when I got to the doctor and to get my blood work, he was like amazed that I had even gotten there because the levels were so bad that I was um, really like somebody that should have been in a coma. Um, that here I am, you know, like thinking that I had it all put together and whatever, and you know health gets in the way, and this condition that I did never even know existed, I had developed. And throughout the years after that, like I thought, okay, well, I could just take this pill and be okay. um, but that wasn't the case either. I mean, for my weight just fluctuated. And soon after I had my first daughter, I had my second daughter. They're only 18 months apart. Um, I wasn't able to lose really any of the weight from my first pregnancy. And after my second pregnancy, I did lose like 73 pounds after, and I was very, very diligent. I was doing Weight Watchers and just doing a lot of portion control and everything. And again, my exercise has always been on point. Like I've never not exercised. Um, but then the weight started creeping in up again. And I got divorced, and like, I became a single mom again. And it just kept going up and up, like fluctuating, and I could never really control it. And I felt like I was always obsessed. Like I tried every new workout, regimen. I was also a group exercise manager for a while, so I was certified in everything. So every type of modality or new trend, I was certified in. Any type, every like new workout or a new gadget or the new diet. So then there was like 21-day fix and all every type of Jenny Craig, everything. I went to see a nutritionist and a dietitian and like everything that I thought, because again, my focus was weight loss. It was always about weight loss. And then finally, I about 3 years ago, I started to have digestion issues. Like every day I had chronic diarrhea and chronic gas, and it was just like, what is happening? And my thyroid levels never have really ever been stable, right? And so, um, but then I went to this doctor to see about my digestion issue, and he was like, "Oh, you just have IBS. Eat more yogurt." And I'm like, "Dude, I eat like what? No." And so I started doing my own research and learning what is actually detrimental for someone with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Like gluten specifically, is really detrimental because your body doesn't, um, someone who has Hashimoto's, like, and even if you eat like 1 gram of gluten, it's the same as if I ate a whole like pizza or a cake, right? And
Wow.
either way, it still finds it as an invader. And it thinks that it is, part of my thyroid. So once I consume gluten, it flares up the fighters,
Mhm.
to create more antibodies. And so that's why, especially people with Hashimoto's or autoimmune conditions like that, should not have gluten, even if they don't have a sensitivity to it or an allergy or they're not celiac, because your body thinks that it is an invader, specifically the thyroid. And so, but I kept going to my endocrinologist, and I said, "This is what I'm reading. I mean, this is the research. What do you think?" And they're like, "No, nutrition has no relevancy to the function of your thyroid." And I'm like, "What? Okay." But then when this integrative internal medicine doctor told me that I had IBS and that I needed to eat yogurt, I'm like, this is not right. Like, I'm not getting better with my thyroid. I'm getting worse with my like digestion. And so I saw there was an in-home food sensitivity test that I could take, and I'm like, maybe I should take that. And sure enough, when I took that, like I was allergic to, not allergic, sensitive to so many foods that I was already eating that I were considered um healthy, like spinach and almonds and green beans and those things, in addition to like gluten and dairy and these other things. And so, which is indicative of leaky gut. And so for people who don't know what leaky gut is, just when so you have these junctions in your intestines, and over time, when you eat gluten, dairy, sugar, or things that cause chronic inflammation in the body, it starts to open up these junctures, and so you have these like rips, and so when you're eating, there's particles that go through the intestines and it goes into your bloodstream, contributing to more inflammation. And so um when you have like an ankle sprain, that is an acute information. It happens right away and you could treat it. You see it, it's red, it's swollen. But when you have chronic inflammation over time, you don't necessarily know that it's there, but it starts to lead to disease. It starts to lead to chronic issues, autoimmune conditions. It can lead to mental illness, it could, or conditions, or concerns. It could lead to so many things. Cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, ADHD, anxiety, so many things. And leaky gut is, even if you eat a clean diet, when you have leaky gut, there's those particles are still going through those junctures, and they do then cause inflammation, because that those foods they do not belong in the bloodstream. And so I put myself through like a complete elimination of all of the foods that are in that test. And within a couple days, my digestion issue corrected itself. And then I have reversed a lot of the symptoms that I had with my Hashimoto's. I also was able to wean off my antidepressants and mood stabilizers that I was on for like 21 years.
Wow.
Um, I was able to, just correct so many things. But again, my focus then changed from losing weight loss, to healing. When you change your focus to healing your body, then like my body did lose weight. I did lose a lot of body fat. A lot of it was inflammation. Um, and so that's what I think was the greatest paradigm shift for me, was when I stopped being so concerned about my weight and what is the next diet I need to try so that I could lose weight, and then started focusing on, okay, what kind of nutrition am I going to use to heal my body? Then naturally my body weight came down to what I think is my set point. Could I get lower than I am right now? Sure, because I could be like very, like specific in my macros, or all those things.
Mhm.
But I'm no longer so obsessed about that. I'm more concerned about feeding my body what I know is best for me, which may not be best for you. And so it's very individual. I mean, I think there are some things that, you know, are across the board, or, should be. I hate saying the word should, because I don't like shooting on people, but but that I think are more beneficial for the masses versus, and then you can tweak individually. But I was pretty extreme. I don't eat gluten, I don't eat dairy, I don't eat soy, I don't eat refined sugars, and I don't cheat, right? So because it's no longer worth it for me. That momentary, piece of cake or whatever, I know personally for my body, it wreaks havoc. Number one, like I mentioned, because I have Hashimoto's, it does flare up autoimmune response. And it can take a long time for my body to kind of calm down. So why would I even want to put myself through that?
Mhm.
Again, it's not worth it. Um, and that became like my life's mission, because I have seen so many psychiatrists, I've seen so many internal doctors, I've seen so many specialists, I've seen dietitians, I've seen nutritionists. And I remember the last time I saw a nutritionist, I just told her, she's like, what do you hope to gain from meeting with me? I said, I just want to be free. I just want to feel free. I feel like I'm so consumed about what I'm eating, what I shouldn't be eating. I just obsess all the time. I feel like I'm trapped, and I just want to be free. And so now, even though people think that I'm very rigid in how I eat, because again, I don't cheat. I don't, like um there's certain parameters that I always stay within, some, rules, food rules that I stay within. But I know what's best for me. I've experienced with myself, and so I feel free because I don't go outside of what I know is good for me and what I know will hurt me.
Mhm.
And I don't count calories. I don't count macros. I don't weigh my food. I am, I'm not concerned about the scale anymore. I see food as medicine. You can either have food as your medicine or food as your poison. You get to choose. So
Mhm.
I choose my food to be a medicine for myself, for my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health. And then I see exercise as a way to support that. Um, and that's also changed my view on exercise. I no longer exercise to look a certain way. I exercise to feel a certain way. I no longer eat to look a certain way. I eat to feel a certain way.
Mhm.
And that brings freedom.
Mhm.
That brings freedom. It takes a lot of pressure off,
Mhm.
and it just keeps me at peace. And that, I think, has been the greatest thing that I have learned through my struggle, is finding that peace, um and the balance between, the food and the exercise, and how they can go together, to really live up optimally. And that's what I want to teach other women to do, and empower them to do. Yes, it is a sacrifice.
Mhm.
Yes, will come with discomfort. Yes, you would probably lose friends. And because yes, you would probably piss off a waiter, because people not will not always understand.
Mhm.
Sometimes, they were like, why do you don't eat gluten? Are you allergic? I'm not necessarily allergic, no. But, over time, I would be like, it's a sensitivity, or I'll go to the restaurant and I say, "Does it have gluten in it?" And they're like, "What? Are you allergic?" And sometimes I'll just say yes. Now I just say yes, because then they'll take me seriously. Where if I was to say, "Well, it's a preference," you know, um, then they'll look at me like, "Oh, she's just being a difficult.
Mhm.
She's just being a diva or whatever." And so, I at first I would shame myself and say, "You know what? I'm gonna be difficult. I know I'm just so hard. Like, I know I'm just a nuisance." And then I'm like, why am I shaming myself to make other people comfortable with what I know is best for me? Like, so um, so that whole shift world, it was like a worldview. Like, it changed everything how I saw life. Um, and it's been a battle, but and I have had difficult conversations with doctors about it, because now I advocate for myself. I'm well educated, and that's another thing that I like to do. I want to fill the gap for women like me who have tried it all and still did not get better.
Mhm.
And so I want to fill the gap between them and their provider, and educate them, empower them so that they can advocate for themselves and find what works best so that they can find healing. Because I am a big believer that there is no magic pill. Even if you do have to take a pill, because I still have to take a thyroid hormone replacement pill for
Mhm.
the rest of my life. I will have to do that, or else my body will shut down. But I know that there's just all this other stuff that I still need to do. I cannot rely on the pill, and that's what I thought I could do. That's what medical providers sometimes tell you. Just take this pill and you will feel better. But that's not reality. There's so much more that can be done, that you could support yourself. You could reverse a lot of the symptoms. You can heal a lot of your ailments, and you can prevent further disease from happening if you eat a certain way specific to your situation, to your body type, your history, and then you change some of the lifestyle habits that keep us unwell.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up. It just so happens that I was having a conversation about depression specifically, but about using lifestyle interventions and how, you know, in certain circumstances it can seem dismissive to suggest them, like in the case of depression, this came up because I found myself just rewriting the same message over and over again, because it's just, when someone's telling you like this is the several horrible situations that have happened and why I'm suffering from depression right now, and you're like, have you tried an elimination diet? It's like,
Mhm,
there are so many ways like it can sound like victim blaming, or like,
mhm.
what's wrong with you? Or,
Right, right. Like, you caused this. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah,
Right.
or like, or like this was like, oh, just get some sleep. It'll be fine. You should sleep more.
Snap out of
Sleep
it.
it off.
Right, right.
But at the same time, there are, like you can't, as a practitioner, you can't withhold that information, because
Mhm,
as you said, people go through these torturous journeys with the pills, and again, there's nothing wrong with pills. They
mhm,
have their place, but
mhm,
just like if there are several different pills, should a doctor only tell you about one of them and just be like,
mhm,
I'm not going to tell you about the other ones? No, it's like, you have to, like, within your scope of practice. I feel very strongly about that, and never going outside your scope of
mhm,
practice, but you have to, like, inform people of these, but to do so in a way that seems like you're taking them seriously, like, oh, I'm suffering from this, and Hashimoto's or whatever. Have you tried cutting out gluten? It's like, did you not hear me?
mhm,
And so I
mhm,
love that you brought that up, because, and you explained it so eloquently. It's, sometimes you need, there's nothing against the other interventions that are out there, but to deprive yourself of, even the option or the information around all those other things you can do to support yourself, as you said,
Mhm,
is just, absolutely. And, it also struck me about what you were saying is that you got your control back because you have
mhm,
the information, you're empowered with information. And so now you have the freedom to choose if you want to feel
mhm,
at peace, if you want to feel free, or if
mhm,
you want to have gluten,
mhm.
and you can choose that. And there's,
Right,
like, I have a dairy sensitivity. It's a light one. If I have dairy one time, I'll just feel a little sluggish the next day. It takes like 3 days for me to really
right.
start to feel bad. So it's
Mhm.
like, I have that ice cream sometimes, and that's I can choose, and like people can choose, you know?
Right.
Like in the long term, might it be better for my body if I didn't? Yeah. It's like, and people can, like, when you have that information, like I know some people who won't even try an elimination diet because they're like, well, then if I find out I'm sensitive to something, I can never have it again. And I'm like,
Mhm,
you've been having it all this time, right? If you don't do the elimination diet, you're going to continue having it all the time. If you do the
mhm.
elimination diet, the only difference is you'll know whether changing something can make you feel better, and then you can choose to or not, or sometimes
Right,
choose to and sometimes not. So you got your control back. You've got that freedom in a completely counterintuitive way.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And that is my goal, to really educate and make people aware. I think there's so much value to becoming self-aware. And the more you can learn to be self-aware, the more that you can make better choices for yourself. Because sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And so we make choices based on what we don't know. And they could be hurting us, right? And so um, there is, power in knowledge, and you can, like you said, you can then make choices. You can make well informed choices, and then you could choose. Okay, well, I know that when I eat this way, I have this reaction. So I can make. Do I? Is it worth it for me to go through this reaction for the next couple days or so? If it is, fine. If it isn't, then at least I know. But if you don't take the time to really explore what is causing some form of dysfunction or dis-ease of sorts, then you just continue to rely on medication or substances or things that really don't get to the root of the problem, and is just a band-aid. And then you end up, when you're 60 years old, taking 20 different medications,
Mm.
because you're just trying to put a band-aid over a band-aid, and everything is interrelated. It's a domino effect. And if you don't get to the root of a problem and just put a band-aid on, then that's when a second diagnosis is given, and a third, and now a fourth, and now you have now you need glasses, and now you have insomnia, and now you have whatever, and so and people think it's not connected, but your body as a
Aging,
whole.
it's normal.
Yeah, your whole body as a whole. Yes, exactly. And it's not normal. It's
Mhm.
not.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love you brought that up. And, even tying back to what you said earlier about these, light sensitivities and, people eating a, generic middle of the bell curve healthy diet, they could be eating things that cause inflammation in their own body, or in your case, leaky gut, things getting
Mhm.
through and causing inflammation, but not the inflammation that you feel in an acute inflammation
Right.
scenario. Like, it's just, like, a lot of people don't know what it feels like not to feel inflamed. And they associate that feeling
Exactly.
of the inflammation getting worse and worse with aging, because that's what happens
Right.
when you abuse your body. Like, when you abuse your body, it's not the next, sometimes it's the next day. Like, you go out, you get a hangover, but
Right.
normally it's
Right.
not the next day. It takes what, like 3 decades? Like, most people start to see these health issues around 30 if they don't, clean up their act by then.
Mhm.
And, until you feel that inflammation gone, all of a sudden it's like you're like, I feel like a kid again. At least that's kind of
Mhm.
my experience. And I struggle to do, like modern life makes it hard, especially like I work on a computer for like, I don't know, 12 hours a day.
Mhm.
And so with all that sitting and then more sitting and lots of sitting and, it's hard. Like I feel for me, the way it feels to me, and I've actually never really talked about this before, so I'm wondering if you feel the same way. But for me, like inflammation manifests as just kind of like this agitation, like without
Mhm.
really, it just kind of feels like I just feel kind of like like I can't just get comfortable, I can't just feel calm and at peace. Like I kind of want to like fidget, or I'm kind of uncomfortable, have to keep changing positions, just kind of like this general low grade agitation, and just kind of lethargic, like I don't feel like, yeah, let's go. It's kind of like,
Mhm.
all right, let me get myself up,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's me what inflammation feels like. And those times when I can be free of it, it's like, it's like, oh, I'm a kid again, let me run around, let me jump around, let me do this, like I'm like raring to go. And that might not be how it feels for everybody, but it's like you said, we don't know it because it creeps up on us so slowly. And
Mhm.
because of the lifestyle that our culture has, it creeps up on most people. And
Right.
so it's just, this is what happens as you get older,
Mhm.
instead of we're abusing our bodies.
Mhm.
And again,
Mhm.
like every person, it's your choice. It's just so, to me, it's troublesome that so many people don't have that information to even choose from, or
Mhm.
unfortunately, because we live in the age of like, facts as opinions on the internet, where they
Mhm.
just conflict with each other. People may have access to the information, but it's hard to know who to believe, so they don't necessarily have reliable access to the information in that way. And I mean, we see it in the work we do, because we see those quote unquote miracles all the time, where I've been to 20 doctors and you
Mhm.
told me to just do XYZ. And why didn't anyone else tell me that? It's like, oh,
Mhm.
well, because, there are a lot of reasons why. No one's trying,
Right.
it's not a conspiracy. Everyone's trying to help, but like you said, it's just like people don't have access, people don't have that option, and so they don't have the freedom to choose whether, like they want to, like in my case, it makes sense to, do what I'm doing right now and grind, and or as opposed to like, I'm just gonna quit.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm gonna go
Mhm.
like build a hut in the woods and like yoga all day. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not saying those are the only two options, but like, we have to make those tough choices. But I can make, like you said, a well-informed choice on like, hey, I know that this is rough on my health right now, but I think in the end, grinding like this while I'm young will be better for my health later on. Or
Mhm.
someone else may decide the opposite, and that's all great, like, but like you said, like having the information, having the means to make that choice, you can have that control over your body, that freedom. Just hearing your story about that experience with your body, um it I just imagine, just from like experiences I've had, it's like, for me, when my body has, just out of nowhere done something like that, it almost feels like a betrayal. It's
Mhm.
like your body's like your closest companion.
Right.
And I just remember when, for me, it was the inability to birth my son. And it was like, but I did everything right.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's like when your body, there's like an emotional, I don't know if you experience that, but for me, there's like an emotional side to having a problem like that, whether it's, an injury or a disease or something that crops up, even though you've quote unquote done everything right that you know of,
Mhm.
it feels like a betrayal, and like that loss of control, like that
Mhm.
you mentioned, is emotionally very difficult.
Mhm. Yes. So I currently am having an inflammatory response. So before we started recording, I mentioned to you that I just found out this week. Part of the whole breakdown on Monday was that I got the report, the toxicology report of my house. So there's like, like, major mold issue. I've been living here for about 7 months now. And because I have an autoimmune condition, I'm more susceptible. I mean, a couple months into living here, I started having respiratory issues, and I'm like, that's not normal. And then I started waking up with puffy eyes, and so finally, a couple, what was it, like at the beginning of December, I finally got, I'm like, I think this is must be a mold issue. I can't see it, but sure enough, it came back that it's positive. So now I'm meeting with a scientist tomorrow on a remediation company on Friday. Um, but all that to say is that even though I haven't changed anything the way I'm eating, but because of the mold toxins in my home, um, I have gained weight, like literally about 6 pounds the past month. Because again, I have an autoimmune condition, so I'm more susceptible to, and because I have eliminated so much, my body reacts pretty quickly to some sort of toxic chemical or environment or whatever. And so, someone like me who had the past that I've had, looks at that scale and said, "Oh my gosh, like here I am. I've done everything right. I do everything right. Like how much more can I eliminate? Like I might as well, like, people be
Just
like,
have
well, I might
lettuce
as well
3
just,
meals a day.
yeah, I might as well just eat whatever I want if my body's gonna gain weight anyway, But truth is that, it is what it is. Like, and so, um, yeah, I look a lot more puffy, and I know it is a lot of inflammation, and my eyes burn, and I have a lot of like a headache, and have brain fog, and all those symptoms are a result of mold exposure for as long as I've had it. So all that to say is that sometimes you could do everything right and have some form of like exposure to something that causes your body to react in a way because for whatever reason it's an immune response um to the inflammation that I is happening inside due to the exposure. But because I know what I know, I'm not necessarily freaking out, but I do have those, like, that I have to put those thoughts in check. Like, oh no, I'm gaining weight again. Am I, I have a fear. Like, am I gonna go up? Like, is my body not gonna be able to like react once I, get rid of this mold, like, and detox from it? And like, am I gonna lose the inflammation? All of these thoughts, because I have grown up and so with so many warped ways of thinking about my weight and my look and that number on the scale. And really, the number on the scale is just information, right? The 6 pounds isn't because I've gained 6 pounds of fat. It's 6 pounds of inflammation. And now I have the tools to know the difference. Where before I thought, just like you said, like people think that inflammation, like they just live with inflammation, they don't know any different.
Mhm.
Well, before I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm fat. Oh my gosh, like now I have to like go on this like, extreme diet to try to lose this weight. And then I start to do more damage, and then I, shame myself, and then I go into like like a tailspin, like, I've done all this work the past 3 years and now I'm gaining weight again. Like, was it worth it? All these crazy thoughts that it's kind of like when you drive a car and you have like a fender bender, and then you just hit a bump in the road, and then you come back home, and then you take a bat to your car, and you demolish it, because like, what's the point, right? That's
Yeah.
absurd, but that's
Mhm.
sometimes that's what we do to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
when your body responds in a way that, even though you've tried to do everything possible, for whatever reason, it's not responding, or you get an illness, or, because you can't always know what's around you or control everything that, um, so there is a lot to be said about, properly educating yourself, and knowing what is beneficial and what is harmful, and what you're exposing yourself to, and what you're consuming, um because then hopefully the point would be is that you would choose beneficial things for you most of the time, right? If not all the time, at least most of the time. um and one thing that I had to learn, that at the end of the day, it was a hard pill to swallow, when put myself in front of the mirror and said, Dalma, you've been doing this to yourself, whether it's been subconsciously or consciously. You're doing this to yourself. So now that you're armed with this information, it would be completely negligent and irresponsible for you to continue to harm yourself in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that when you stop looking outside all the time for who's to blame, and then you kind of not necessarily internalize it so that you can bash yourself, but when you can say take ownership
Yes. Mm-hmm.
of what you're contributing to your current situation in a negative direction, then again, the hope is that you can learn what you need to learn, implement what you need to implement, so that you can then own your health, because it's really not the doctor's responsibility or anybody else's responsibility to care for you.
Mm-hmm.
You do that. You need to do that. It's not your kids' responsibility. It's not your mom's. It's not your brother's. But the unfortunately, the model is that, people, so like you said, you get old, you normalize it, the pills, and then at the end of the day, it's everyone else taking care of you, your kid, or
Mm-hmm.
the nursing home, or whatever, because now you've made it everybody else's problem, and instead of taking ownership for yourself. And it is hard. It is hard. Not many people want to do that. I was having a conversation with my business accountability partner, and she has a friend who's a farmer, and she's got a lot of health issues. But they use they use like Roundup and all these chemicals, which is really, you know, contributing to a lot of her health issues. But if she was to say and own it, like, oh, this, what I'm doing to these crops is actually harming my health, then that means, like, wow, I'm responsible for other people's lack of health. I'm responsible for my kids' lack of health. That's a hard pill to swallow and own.
Yeah.
So I understand there's fear behind not wanting to take a hard look at yourself and your situation. What are you contributing to your, lack of health?
Mm-hmm.
But again, there is freedom once you do the hard work. Take a good look at what you're doing, learn what you need to learn, implement, and move forward. Then it's so empowering to know that you can make the choice between having a good day, it's so to speak, physically, if you choose, what you eat and what you consume and the habits, and or you can make the conscious choice, what, I know I'm going to pay for this tomorrow, but I'm just going to do it, and then you mentally prepare for that. You know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there is freedom in that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I just love, I feel like we just like brought it back full circle. It's like you're absolutely right. And responsibility is not blame.
Mhm.
There may be times when those two things overlap, but taking
Mhm.
responsibility doesn't mean you're blaming yourself. And it is empowering because it acknowledges your choice, because then
Right.
you're not a victim anymore. You can choose
Right.
to be out of that situation, or you can choose to stay where you are if it's more beneficial. And so
Mhm.
it's empowering. And
Mhm.
it goes right back to the hardships of single motherhood we were talking about too. It applies
Mhm.
to nutrition. And as a single mom, what I was so scared. Like I was telling you before we got on here, I was terrified to become a single mom, because what's the narrative out there? What are all the
Mhm.
stories about the struggle? And oh well, we admire and respect this single mom because of all the hardships she went through, right? It's not
Mhm.
like that's it. Like,
Mhm.
and then to, be in the situation, it's easy to feel like a victim, especially if
Mhm.
it wasn't, 100% your choice. And,
Mhm.
you know, stepping up and taking ownership allows you to be empowered for your future choices, like
Mhm.
people will say I'm hard on myself when I'll say, I can't complain because I stayed in the situation as long as I did. I'm not
Mhm.
blaming myself. I thought it was the right thing to do with the information I had at the time. And I was
Right.
seeking, opinions of, the right, professionals to make the decisions I made. And to me, I thought, it was the right decision. And so I stayed in the situation. And you're like, you're being hard on yourself. No, I'm not. I'm acknowledging I made a decision. I'm giving
Right.
myself I'm giving myself, authority, like not authority. What's the word I'm looking for? Not autonomy. There is an agency. I'm giving myself
Agent.
agency, like as opposed to, well, this happened to me, well then it can just happen again to me,
Mhm.
whereas otherwise I can choose. If I find myself in a similar, god, I hope I don't, if I find myself in a similar situation in the future, I can look back and say, do I still believe this is the right thing to do? I choose to take the risk and stay in this situation again, or do I choose to avoid it and, potentially, feel what I would feel if the situation had turned out the other way and I was right,
Mhm.
um but so yeah, with nutrition you can choose. You're not like, just because you find out you're gluten sensitive doesn't mean you can never have bread again. It means
Mhm.
that you can choose if it's worth it to have bread again because you have full information.
Mhm. Mhm.
And just the same way in life, with any hardship you're faced with any difficult situation, taking that ownership and taking that responsibility, it empowers you. It gives you the choice because you're not a victim of circumstances. you
Mhm.
you are not boxing yourself in. You're not jailing yourself to other people's expectations or to an idea of what you think you should be or you should do. You're
Mhm.
giving yourself the freedom to choose
Mhm.
what you believe is best for yourself at that time. And
Right.
again, you won't always make the right decision. That's not blame, but if you take
Mhm.
responsibility, you continue to give yourself that agency, that ability to choose and to learn from it.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me for this. I mean, this conversation got deep.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I always tell people I don't know how to chit chat. Like like you're gonna either go deep with me or we're just not gonna talk because I don't know how not to do
I'm with you. I'm just not a huge
it.
fan of small talk. Like, I'll do it for like, other people's, like I get, other people feel more comfortable with that. And so I'm happy to
Mhm.
engage in the small talk ritual that our culture, is
Right.
used to. But my preference is like, hey, how are you? Let's, and then jumping into
Yeah.
jumping into those deeper topics that most people are
Right.
uncomfortable with. So I feel
Right.
you. But let people know. I mean, I'm sure after hearing your wisdom, everyone's there are probably a million people right now who are just like, I need to work with her. I need to talk with her. I need to learn from her. So let them know where they can keep in touch, learn from you. If they're interested in getting in touch to work with you, how does all that work for you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Dalma underscore. Sorry, my did I lose you? There we go.
It just flashed
Um,
your name, which I thought you did on
yeah.
purpose because you were telling them the spelling.
Yeah, I'm so good like that. No. It was my battery was low. So
If you hadn't said anything, I just would have assumed that you're like, I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
yeah. Yeah. So Dalma DALMA underscore wellness at Instagram and also in Facebook, but I'm most active on Instagram. And then I have a website called dalmawellness.com. So if you know, I always respond to every direct message. So if you want to direct message me, you could do so either through Facebook if you're not on Instagram. But if you are Instagram, follow me on Instagram. And then also on my website, you could always send like they have a little contact information if you want to send me that as well. And then, my email is dalmawellness@outlook.com. Again, that's another way to reach me directly. Um, and, I, I, I always love to get questions. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and we can have a dialogue and see how best I can serve you and help you, educate you, and walk alongside you, because um it is a journey. It's not a destination, it's lifelong. And I just want to continue to empower people and give them valuable information that will serve them so that they can be well, so that they can show up well for others and have an optimal life, and a quality life. People will say, well, um, I would rather not live very long and have a quality life and just live to the fullest than live to 90 and just, just, have chronic illness and
Mhm.
disease and just live ineffectively for the people who I love. And that's what I want to give people, is the freedom that I've been given, and just give back to them in that way.
Absolutely. And how do people work with you? Is it like, courses, online programs? Do you have books, blogs, publications, one-on-one?
Yeah. So mainly right now I do one-on-one. I am working on a group project to bring people in. I'm actually facilitating a sugar fast that starts on Monday. So if someone wants, it's 21 days. It starts on Monday. Registration ends on Friday. It's just a donation to the one of the organizations that I am certified in. So if someone is interested in that, that's going to
And
be
just to
more
be
of a
clear,
group
because
thing.
this episode will be published later on.
Oh, okay.
So you may be hearing this after it's Monday, January 11th. You may be hearing this after that, but I'm sure you'll do
hmm
more.
Yes, yeah. So, I do also have an um, inflammation elimination protocol that I take people in through. It's a 4-week thing. And that's also, but it's more, that won't be one-on-one. It's more self-directed. So you can, purchase that, and then I can support you in the elimination process. First week is sugar, second is gluten, then dairy, and then processed oils. And the whole goal is to by the end of that 4 weeks, just to have that whole elimination, all those eliminated. So that's also, again, if you don't want to do one-on-one and would rather, do kind of more self-directed, they could do that too. So that's why it's always important to at least reach out to me and then tell me what's going on, and I can kind of direct you on what best will serve you, whether it's one-on-one or more of a self-directed way of dealing with it. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, definitely get in touch with Dalma. Thanks again so much for being here. And thank you, those of you listening, for tuning into Badass Moms, brought to you by the Holistic Therapies Directory. And if you are a practitioner, or if you're looking for a holistic practitioner, make sure you check out holistictherapiesdirectory.com. Follow Holistic Therapies Directory on Facebook and Instagram. And for those of you who are new to me, I'm at Super Busy Mommy Coach on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok now, because I have a young team member who insisted on it. And I have challenges that I'm running every couple of months or so. Fight It, Don't Fear It challenge, which is all about how to completely crush a crisis situation. How do you take care of yourself? How do you stay fit? How do you stay healthy when life has you stretched to its limits? And going back to what we said earlier, when you don't even have time for a breakdown, how do you make time to take care of yourself? And so, this goes way beyond motivational memes. It's all about practical solutions, like what scientifically actually works when you're interrupted by a toddler every 30 seconds, when you have trouble affording what is normally promoted as healthy foods, what are the less expensive things that may not be quite as trendy but can be just as healthy, guiding you through all of those tough situations, and to get you to high levels of fitness and well-being. By the way, I don't do something is better than nothing. Well, you're just gonna have to have more realistic expectations that your life is just gonna suck. No, I don't do that. Join my Facebook group, Single Moms Thriving. We're all about that. But so for those of you who are new to me, you can check me out as well. Thank you so much for joining, and make sure you subscribe to the Badass Moms podcast. And if you follow us on Instagram, you can hear another conversation with Dalma and me on IGTV under my account, Super Busy Mommy Coach. Continue to follow and you'll hear more great content. Follow Dalma's page. I mean, I love listening to her for her wonderful just soliloquies where she just spews diamonds of wisdom out of her mouth. And I look forward to seeing you on the Badass Moms podcast next time. Thank you for joining.